So writing a philosophy essay is not quite like writing an essay in English or history or something like that. I kind of basically, for writing the philosophy essay, you already know what it's got to look like. What you want is you've got your first paragraph where you state out the main thesis. Yep, you know that. You've got your last paragraph where you restate the main thesis, explain how you argued for it, and indicate any problems you weren't able to address. After the first paragraph, you maybe got another paragraph where you explain more fully what the main thesis is. Then you got a paragraph where you give an argument, a reason for believing the main thesis. Then you got a paragraph where you give an objection to your main thesis. Then you give a reply to that objection. And bingo, you're home. Okay, that's all. What could be plainer than that? Right? Something like that. I mean, it does not have to be as rigid as that, but that would be a kind of familiar structure for a philosophy essay. Yeah? Yes? Okay. So it does not have to be in just this form. I'm just trying to give the sense of the kind of thing, yeah? But you got a first paragraph where you say what your main thesis is, right? My main thesis is that behaviorism is completely correct. Yeah? A second paragraph where you explain a bit more fully what your main thesis means. There are 6 kinds of behaviorism. I advocate electrical behaviorism of the type favored by Pufendorf. You see what I mean? Yeah, you distinguish the different types of behaviorism. You say what... wait a minute. Some people are looking really worried and confused. I just made that up about electrical behaviorism. You see what I mean? But you see what I mean? The types, we distinguish different types of behaviorism, like scientific behaviorism or analytical behaviorism. You can maybe have something like that in your second paragraph. Then a reason why you believe it. Why do I think that's true? Then, an argument for it, something like, well, only that can explain how we know other people's minds, because all we have to go on is behavior. You see what I mean? I'm not saying this would be a good essay, the way I'm doing it, but this would be the right structure. Then an objection. Hey, what about Putnam and Super Spartans? Isn't that an objection to behaviorism? Well, I've got to reply to that. Here's my reply. Then your last paragraph, saying again, well, I've been arguing for analytical behaviorism. I think I saw off Putnam and Super Spartans. I'm still a bit worried about how I explain how I have knowledge of my own mind in a way that's different to the way I have knowledge of other people's minds. Something like that. I mean, the GSIs will actually be grading those universities. Does that sound reasonable to you guys? Is that? Yeah. So that would be a kind of classic structure. Argument, thesis, argument, objection, reply. Yeah. Any questions about that? Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to be sort of setting up your thesis.
Right.
You think in response to
Right. So this first thing where you state what the thesis is would be connecting to the prompt. Yeah. They've got to be relevant to the prompt. Explaining why what you want to say is relevant to the prompt. Yes?
When you say that you need to explain on the first step a reason why you believe the argument is correct, do you mean like you need to create your own example through the argument of the author?
You can be original or not. That's really up to you. If you have a great idea, then that's good. Write down your great idea. Just try and be clear and make sure the grader will get it. You see what I mean? But it's also fine to say, I think Putnam has a great argument about this. Here we go. Yeah, and give the argument. Most of these arguments you will have noticed, many of you will have noticed by now, it's very difficult to give a clear statement of what Putnam's argument is or what Ryle's argument is. Yeah, so you can show a lot of acumen, a lot of insight and ability just in explaining what someone's argument is. Yeah, you don't have to be reinventing the whole subject from scratch in your essay. But the two things, say where you got it from, and try and be extremely explicit and clear in writing it down. The other thing that you will find happens is that if you write down someone's argument very explicitly, usually when you do that, you can see that there's some problem with it. It's very rare to write, in my experience, to write down someone else's argument and think, yes, that completely works, that's watertight every inch of the way. Usually just the very exercise of writing down someone's argument makes you see that there are bits that are not joined up, that there are objections that people might raise, and that will give you the bit of structure to take you on to the next part of your essay. You see what I mean? So don't gloss over things. Don't say, there's a bit here in Putnam's argument that I don't understand, but I'll just kind of bash that out and not worry too much about it and move on. If you get something that doesn't quite make sense in someone's argument, you are likely onto something. You are likely spotting a gap in that argument, and you should pause that and say, let's look at this gap. This doesn't quite make sense. Okay, so that's all very abstract, but is that clear enough at that abstract level? Any questions about that? Yeah, good.
How can we try and balance being thorough and addressing all the gaps between keeping it to 4 pages?
That's your task. It's difficult, right? I'm saying this is how you do it. I did not say it would be easy. That's your task, is to get clarity, focus on the important points, make it interesting, make it come alive, do it in 4 pages. Yeah, that's what you have to do. Yeah, I mean, this is, how should I say, this is a real world skill. Practically anything you do after you graduate, you will at some point be given a ton of literature on some complex problem. Should our company move into Canada? Should the US stop drilling for oil in Alaska? You'll get something like that where people argue passionately on either side, a ton of arguments, and someone wants the whole thing presented and summed up in 4 pages with a positive recommendation at the end of it. Everyone, I promise you, you'll be very unusual in this group if you don't have to do that kind of thing after you graduate, right? This is a real world skill, but it's not easy. Yeah, that's what you have to do, though. Yeah. Okay, well, let's get into details. Anyone got a thesis that they want to send me? Right. I'm going to call on people if you guys don't leap up. Preferably someone who hasn't raised many questions in the class before. Hello? Am I on there? Okay. Who looks kind of... Who's staring firmly at the ground? Yeah.
Okay, so my thesis regards Jackson's paper.
Jackson, yeah.
And so it sort of introduces something I've talked about, which is sort of fundamental in physics, which is the conservation of information.
Conservation of information? Okay, so what's the thesis? That's right. That's a task.
Jackson's argument is disproven given that we take a different definition of what knowledge is.
Whoa, okay. This is. I want a soundbite. Give me a soundbite.
Of what?
Of your main line. Right. We've got to redefine knowledge.
Yes.
How?
Okay, so Jackson assumes knowledge is when he assumes that knowing everything about like a red photon and perceiving the red photon are 2 different things.
Yeah.
In physical sense, if you know everything about the red photon, then you create the red photon, and by conservation of information, you know everything about it.
Okay. I really want to. I really want to take this as an example. What's the physical sense of knowledge? You're doing something with the sense of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing you've got to do is be very explicit about what that is. You've got a way of defining knowledge, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
So you have all the information
Yeah.
about something,
Yeah.
then, and assuming you have infinite resources, you can recreate the object. And that is all the information that there
Okay, but what's the definition of knowledge? You didn't use the word knowledge there at all.
Well, and then you can extrapolate knowledge from that. So knowing is having information.
Knowing is having all the information. Yeah. So what I'm trying to push you to do there is the key move that you make in the essay. This is, I think I understand what you're after here, right? But this is going to be the key move you make in the essay, and I want that absolutely explicit and out front. Somehow it's very natural to kind of shelter your key move and think, wait a minute, I'll tell you about that later when I've done a lot of talking back and forth. You see what I mean? When it'll be safe. But what you will have to do here, what you're being asked to do, is expose the nerve, get the key move, so if someone wants to disagree with you, they can see exactly where the jugular is. You see what I mean? Yeah. It always feels unnatural to do that because you don't like going about like this, right? But that's what you're being asked to do. Okay. Once we recognize this, once we have this, we can see Jackson's argument doesn't work. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the take. Yeah.
So what Jackson says is that because Mary must have learned something after leaving the room, then that means that there must be something other than the physical information, right?
Right, that's right. That's right.